Hello, I'm Alexander, a Hollywood movie producer. To the untrained eye, my life has been a smooth ride, a successful career, a wealthy family, and a beautiful, intelligent wife, Isabella. But behind the facade of perfection, there is an invisible rift. It all started with that fancy party. That day, I threw a huge party at my house, inviting many Hollywood celebrities. Lights were shining, people were mingling, everyone was smiling and laughing. As the host, I was naturally immersed in the joyful atmosphere. However, in the midst of all this partying, my wife Isabella seemed a little distracted. She stood alone in the corner, and at other times she was talking to a man I didn't recognize. The man looked very young, with short blonde hair, blue eyes, and the air of an artist in his demeanor. At first, I didn't care, thinking that it was just Isabella communicating with her friends in the fashion industry. After all, as a famous designer, Isabella has many friends in the industry. But when I caught a glimpse of them eyeballing each other and even making intimate physical contact, a sense of foreboding began to rise in my heart. After the party, I tried to talk to Isabella about it, but she downplayed it by saying that it was one of her partners, Sebastian, a talented young artist, and that she was just discussing something at work with him and told me not to take it personally. But my intuition told me it wasn't that simple. Although on the surface, Isabella and I were still a loving couple, the scene at the party lingered in my mind. I had a vague feeling that a small crack had appeared in the mirror of our marriage. Only, I didn't know that this crack would continue to expand and eventually break my life completely. Since the party, I've been watching Isabella's every move. Her seemingly normal behavior was suspicious to me. One day, Isabella received a phone call and hurried into the bedroom, keeping her voice down. Outside the door, I heard her say, "Well, I know. I'll arrange a time to come over as soon as I can." After hanging up the phone, she came out as if nothing had happened and met my puzzled gaze by saying that a friend had invited her to an art show. By checking the phone bill, I realized that Isabella was in frequent contact with an unknown number. The number belonged to Sebastian, the young artist. For the past month, they'd spoken almost every day, 4 hours at a time. I couldn't help but wonder how an ordinary partner could be in such frequent contact. As time went by, Isabella began to go out more often, sometimes even staying out all night. Whenever I asked, she would always excuse herself by saying she was busy with work. Once she said she was attending a 3-day designer's summit, but when I called the organizer to check, I learned that there was no record of Isabella's attendance. My suspicion grew stronger and stronger, and one day, I finally got up the courage to check Isabella's cell phone. When I saw the ambiguous text message from Sebastian, my heart instantly turned cold. The text message read, "Dear Isabella, I can't wait to see you. I've prepared a surprise. I'm sure you'll like it. See you at the usual place.
Love, Sebastian."
When I saw the text message, I couldn't lie to myself anymore that everything was okay. That night, I lied that I had work to do, but in fact I followed Isabella to Sebastian's studio. I saw her look around cautiously to make sure she wasn't being followed, and then walk quickly through the door of Sebastian's studio. I don't know how long I waited outside the door. My heart was a mixture of anger, sadness, and resentment. When Isabella finally came out of the studio, the satisfied smile on her face was like a sharp blade that stabbed me in the heart. I began to think about our married life, trying to find signs of Isabella's change of heart. I realized that since Isabella's design career had started to take off, we had been communicating less and less. I was so busy with work that I often missed her fashion shows, and she gradually stopped asking me about my movie projects. We were like two parallel lines, drifting apart. But I still don't want to believe that our relationship could easily collapse because of a third party. We had been together for so many years. Isabella had loved me so much. How could our marriage collapse just like that? I need a solid proof of my wife's infidelity. Otherwise, I would never be able to make up my mind to face the harsh reality. I knew that I had to take action to investigate thoroughly the relationship between Isabella and Sebastian. Even if the truth was brutal, I couldn't go on living in the dark. I needed closure, an answer that would determine the fate of our marriage. After discovering Isabella's suspicious relationship with Sebastian, I decided to take action and thoroughly investigate the true nature of their relationship. I knew that it would be difficult to get solid evidence on my own, So, I found a private detective, Lena, and asked her to help me investigate the matter. Lena is an experienced private investigator who has helped many clients in marital crisis. After listening to my story, she said she would do her best to help me find the truth. I gave Lena the photos of Isabella and Sebastian and the places they frequented, and she promised to give me an answer in the shortest possible time. A few days later, Lena came to my office with her findings. She produced a stack of photographs that clearly captured Isabella and Sebastian having an intimate dinner in a secluded restaurant. It was clear from their body language and facial expressions that they were far from a simple working partnership. Lena told me that through stalking and spying, she discovered that Isabella and Sebastian often met at hidden upscale restaurants, art exhibitions, and Sebastian's private apartment. They would feed each other intimately at restaurants, view paintings at art exhibitions, and on a few occasions, Isabella spent the night directly at Sebastian's apartment. I felt dizzy looking at the pictures. Isabella's face was beaming with happiness in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. She was looking at Sebastian with love in her eyes, just as she had looked at me. I didn't want to believe that my beloved wife would betray our marriage like that. I asked Lena if she had found any other clues, and she told me that in the course of her investigation, she had discovered that Sebastian had given Isabella an expensive diamond necklace worth at least $200,000. The necklace was also worn by Isabella at her birthday party. I recalled that I had asked Isabella about the necklace, and she had said it was a birthday gift from an important client. Now that I think about it, it all makes sense. My heart was filled with anger and sadness. I couldn't believe that Isabella was cheating on me behind my back while I was fighting for our marriage and career. I felt betrayed and cheated. I didn't understand why Isabella was doing this to me. Was our marriage, our love, worth nothing to her? I felt more helpless than ever with these pictures. I knew that I had to make a decision about the fate of our marriage. But I wasn't ready to face the harsh truth. I needed time to calm down and think about our future. I thanked Lena for her help and asked her to keep an eye on Isabella and Sebastian. I told her that I wasn't going to confront Isabella just yet, and that I needed more time and courage to deal with this marital crisis. But I knew that no matter what the outcome, I had to make an end to our marriage. Because in the face of such betrayal, I couldn't lie to myself that everything was okay. Ever since I learned the truth about Isabella's infidelity, I have been in a constant state of anguish. I couldn't accept the harsh truth, but I had to face the reality. I began to question our marriage and Isabella's love for me. All the sweet moments we had seemed like an unreal dream. I remember lying in bed the night I learned the truth, tossing and turning. Images of Isabella and Sebastian together, their intimate behavior, their sweet smiles, kept popping up in my mind. Each image was like a sharp blade that stabbed me in the heart. I felt like my world was falling apart, that the woman I loved so much, the one I thought I would be with for the rest of my life, had betrayed our marriage. I became irritable and lost my enthusiasm for work. I was often lost in my office, and my thoughts drifted to the details of Isabella's affair with Sebastian. Once, my assistant delivered an important contract, but I forgot to sign it. My assistant reminded me several times before I realized what was going on and hurriedly signed my name to the contract. At the same time, I began to distance myself from Isabella and minimize my interaction with her. I would come home late from work, pretending to be working late or socializing. In the evening, I would drink alone in the study to drown my sorrows. Isabella also seemed to notice that I was different. She would ask me from time to time if I was in trouble and if I needed her help. In the face of her concerned eyes, I could only say perfunctorily that I had been busy with work recently, so she should not worry. The atmosphere between us became more and more rigid and oppressive. I can feel that the invisible gap between us is widening, and the intimacy we once had has disappeared. I don't know how far our marriage can go, and I don't know whether I still have the courage to repair this relationship. Finally, at a family gathering, I could no longer control my emotions. My parents and Isabella's parents came to our house, and we had a wonderful dinner. During the dinner, Isabella's mother kept praising how good our relationship was and spoke highly of our careers. She said that Isabella and I were the perfect couple in her eyes and that it made her feel very happy. Listening to my mother-in-law's praise, looking at Isabella's happy smile, my heart suddenly surged with a nameless fire. I stood up violently and questioned Isabella in front of everyone. Do you really think we are perfect? Do you think I don't know what you've been doing behind my back? There was a dead silence in the room. Isabella's face was white and her eyes were panicked. She tried to calm me down and change the subject, but I couldn't control myself, and I blurted out that she was unfaithful and that she had betrayed our marriage. My parents and Isabella's parents looked at me in shock, not understanding what was happening. In a fit of rage, I threw the photos Lena had provided on the dining room table. The photos were scattered all over the floor, clearly showing Isabella and Sebastian in an intimate manner. Seeing the photos, Isabella couldn't hide it any longer. She fell on her knees in tears and confessed her relationship with Sebastian. She begged for my forgiveness, saying that she never meant to hurt me and that it was all a mistake. But I could no longer listen to any explanation. My heart was filled with despair and sadness. I rushed out of the house, leaving behind Isabella's cries. I wandered aimlessly on the street, not knowing where to go or how to face this cruel reality. At that moment, I felt that my life had come to an end, and there was no more hope and meaning. I sat on a park bench until dawn. The morning sun was shining on my face, but I couldn't feel any warmth. My heart was dead. I knew that my marriage with Isabella had come to an end. The woman who had once haunted me was now a permanent pain in my heart. I didn't know how I was going to face the future. After that painful night, I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't go on like this. I couldn't live with the lies and betrayals. After much deliberation, I decided to divorce Isabella. It was a difficult decision, but I knew it was my only choice. I hired a professional divorce attorney and began to prepare for the divorce. The lawyer advised me to draw up a property division agreement that would clearly define my and Isabella's property interests. As a successful movie producer, I have a number of properties and investments to my name. Isabella, as a famous designer, has her own business and income. We need a clear division of these assets to avoid future disputes. I started to sort out our marital assets. I listed the real estate, vehicles, art collection, etc. that we had purchased together, as well as our respective bank deposits and investments. It was a tedious and painful task, as each asset held memories of our past. The house we bought together, the furniture we chose together, all speak of the sweetness of our past. But now, all of that will be in the past, replaced by cold numbers and legal jargon. In the course of organizing my assets, I discovered that Isabella had made some high-risk investments without my knowledge. She invested large sums of money in unreliable projects and lost a lot of money. I never thought that Isabella would hide her finances from me. We had agreed to keep each other informed of all financial decisions, but that was another lie. My lawyer advised me that I could seek a greater division of property on the grounds of Isabella's dishonest behavior, but I didn't want to do that. Although Isabella has hurt me, I don't want to get back at her. I want our divorce to be as peaceful and honorable as possible, without adding more hurt. After the property division agreement was basically finalized, I started drafting the divorce agreement. This agreement would officially end our 10-year marriage and completely separate our lives. Together with my attorney, I carefully scrutinized every word, fearing that there might be a mistake. But when I saw the word divorce appearing in the title of the agreement, I felt a sense of suffocation. I had looked forward to spending my life with Isabella, but now we were saying goodbye in this way. Before filing the divorce papers, I met with Isabella one last time to talk to her in person. We met in a quiet cafe, and the atmosphere was heavy and depressing. Looking at Isabella's sad face, I almost wavered in my decision. But reason told me that there was no going back between us. Isabella apologized again, and she pleaded with me to give her a chance to start over. She said that her relationship with Sebastian was over and that she would do anything for our marriage. But I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. The seeds of betrayal, once planted, can never be completely erased. The trust between us had been destroyed and could never be rebuilt. I told Isabella that I had made up my mind and that we had to get a divorce. I explained the property division plan to her and hoped that she could accept it. Isabella listened to me for a long time in silence, her eyes filled with tears. She said she respected my decision and was willing to accept the plan. We signed the divorce papers and became strangers in the eyes of the law. Walking out of the cafe, I felt a sense of bewilderment. 10 years of marriage had ended like this. Once, we promised to be together until the end of our lives, but now, we have to carry the scars of their own lives. I do not know, after the divorce will be what kind of day, but I know, I have to be strong to face the future of everything. The divorce was not easy. Although I tried my best to keep myself engaged in my work, the trauma and resentment inside me could not be quelled. I couldn't forgive Isabella for her betrayal, and I couldn't forgive Sebastian for destroying my marriage, and I knew that I would never heal unless I gave them a taste of what they had done. I started to investigate Sebastian's background. Through my contacts in the entertainment industry, I learned that he was recently preparing for an important art exhibition. This exhibition was crucial to Sebastian's career, and he had invested a lot of time and energy into it. A number of prestigious galleries and art organizations have shown great interest in the show, and Sebastian has high hopes. Upon learning the news, I began to plan my revenge. I knew that if I could sabotage the exhibition, the blow to Sebastian would be devastating. Not only would he lose the opportunity to showcase his talent, but he would also lose his reputation. I started spreading negative news about Sebastian in the art world. I posted anonymously on art forums, questioning the originality of Sebastian's work and suggesting that he might be guilty of plagiarism. Through my network of contacts, I also got some influential art critics to write articles negatively about Sebastian's work. Gradually, negative rumors about Sebastian began to circulate in the art world, and his reputation began to be questioned. At the same time, I secretly hired some people to create chaos at Sebastian's exhibition. On the night before the opening, they sneaked into the gallery and vandalized several of Sebastian's major works. Glass was broken, paintings were torn up, and the entire gallery was in shambles. The next day, when Sebastian came to the gallery, he saw such a broken scene. His work was in ruins. His years of hard work were in vain. Word quickly spread that Sebastian's exhibition had been botched. The press was all over the story, and Sebastian's reputation was in tatters. Not only was he accused of mismanagement, he was also questioned about his ability to organize such an important exhibition. A number of galleries and institutions that had been interested in collaborating with Sebastian pulled out, and his career suffered. Seeing Sebastian's situation, the resentment in my heart was finally calmed a little. He had finally tasted the bitter fruit of his betrayal and realized the pain of losing everything. But at the same time, I felt an emptiness. Revenge did not make me happy, but made me realize that I had lost the most precious thing in my life. In the course of carrying out my revenge plan, my life began to change a little. I began to have frequent nightmares of Isabella and Sebastian laughing at my delusions of grandeur. My drinking problem got worse, and I needed alcohol to numb myself almost every day. Once, I even had an accident while driving under the influence of alcohol, but fortunately I was not seriously hurt. My family and friends were concerned about my state. They advised me to stop obsessing about revenge, learn to let go of the past, and start a new life. But I realized that this was not easy. The hurt of betrayal has been etched into my bone marrow and has become part of my life. I don't know if I have the courage to face a future without Isabella. While I was in a state of confusion and self-doubt, an unexpected discovery took a new turn. I stumbled upon some of the Isabella family's finances, which seemed to have some problems. Some of the money flowed in an unknown direction, and some of the investment projects were full of doubts. I began to suspect that Isabella's infidelity might be related to these problems. A bigger conspiracy seemed to be brewing in a place I couldn't see. After discovering the anomalies in the Isabella family's financial situation, I decided to dig deeper. I hired a professional financial auditor to help me analyze the Isabella family's financial statements and investment records. At the same time, I used my business connections to find out about the Isabella family. The financial auditor's analysis surprised me. He found that there were serious irregularities in some of the Isabella family's investments. They used false financial statements to exaggerate the profitability of their projects and swindled a large amount of investor funds. These funds were transferred to overseas shell companies, and their whereabouts are unknown. What shocked me even more was the fact that Sebastian's name was listed among the dubious investments. Not only was he involved in some of these projects, but he also held executive positions in some of the shell companies. This suggests that Sebastian's relationship with the Isabella family was much more than a simple lover's relationship. It is likely that they were a community of interest that conspired to carry out these irregularities. My business associates also gave me some valuable information. They told me that the Isabella family had a bad reputation in the business world. They are known for their ruthlessness and will do anything for profit. Some of the partners they worked with didn't end up well. They either went bankrupt or were forced out of the business world, and some even lost their lives. This information made my heart skip a beat. I realized that I might be in trouble with a huge group of interests, and that Isabella and Sebastian's betrayal was probably just the tip of a huge conspiracy. I had unwittingly become a pawn in their plan. I began to think about my married life with Isabella, trying to find some clues. I realized that Isabella seemed to be hiding something throughout our marriage. Whenever I asked her about her family's business, she would always digress. And when it came to our major investment decisions, she was always a strong advocate of investing in projects that I didn't care for. In hindsight, these projects were probably Isabella's family's misdemeanors. I felt a pang of fear. For years, I'd thought I was a shrewd businessman, but I'd ignored so many red flags in my own marriage. I was so trusting of Isabella, so immersed in our relationship, that I was careless about her family background. Now, not only have I lost my wife, but I may face a double blow to my career and reputation. But I knew I couldn't back down. Now that I had found out what was wrong, I had to get to the bottom of it. I decided to gather more evidence to uncover the true nature of the Isabella family. I stepped up my financial investigations and went through legal channels to get information about their overseas companies. It was a tough game, and I didn't know how far I could go, but I realized that this was my only option. At the same time, there have been some changes in my personal life. Since I started investigating the Isabella family, I've received some strange threats. Threatening messages have been left on my car, and my office has been broken into. For all I know, it could be the Isabella family pressuring me. They were trying to stop my investigation and get me to back off. I became cautious. I hired professional security personnel to enhance my personal protection. At the same time, I started learning to shoot and fight, hoping to be able to protect myself in critical moments. I realized that I had to be on my guard against a powerful enemy. Despite the difficulties, I did not give up. I knew that the truth might cost me dearly, but I had no choice. I couldn't let Isabella and Sebastian get away with it, and I couldn't let their schemes succeed. Whatever dangers lie ahead, I must face them with courage. Because it's not just for me. It's for the people they've deceived and hurt. I will fight for justice until the day the truth comes out. As my investigation deepened, I gradually realized that the Isabella family's problems were far more serious than I had imagined. They not only have irregularities in their business, but also have some unseemly activities. And all of this seems to be related to the mysterious trust fund. I have been told by insiders that the Isabella family established a secret trust fund many years ago. The source of the money is unknown, and the way it is operated is very secretive. Isabella's father was the main manager of the fund. Over the years, he has utilized the fund to carry out a large number of illegal activities, ranging from money laundering to tax evasion to market manipulation. What's even more shocking is that Isabella and her siblings all seem to be involved. They were each in charge of different parts of the fund, responsible for different businesses. The family is, in fact, a huge criminal organization, and the trust fund is their safe deposit box. I began to realize that I might be nothing more than an outcast in the eyes of the Isabella family. They probably agreed to our marriage only to use my influence in the business world as a cover for their criminal activities. When my usefulness disappeared, they didn't hesitate to let Isabella abandon me for Sebastian. The thought made me feel incredibly angry and humiliated. For years, I had considered Isabella the love of my life and her family as my own. But now I realized that it had all been an elaborate deception. They never really accepted me, and I never really knew them. I decided to have a showdown with Isabella's family. I met with Isabella's father and presented him with the evidence I had. At first, he tried to deny it, but in the face of hard evidence, he finally showed his true colors. He threatened me in a loud voice that if I dared to disclose these things, I would regret it for the rest of my life. I was very angry and had a big fight with him. I asked him why he did this to me and why he used his daughter to deceive me. He laughed and said that family is just a tool in the face of profit. He said that Isabella knew about the plan from the beginning and that her opposition was just an act to gain my sympathy and trust. Those words devastated me. I always thought that at least in Isabella's heart, our relationship was real. But now, I realized that all along, I was just a pathetic puppet being played by them. I left angrily, but my heart was in deep despair. I wondered if I would have the courage to believe in love and marriage after seeing the ugliness of human nature. I began to have frequent nightmares about being surrounded by Isabella and her family, who laughed at my stupidity and naivety. My life came to a standstill. I began to drink heavily and spent my days locked up in my house, not wanting to see anyone. The firm's affairs were in disarray, and my partners began to lose faith in me. At one point, I even tried to commit suicide, thinking that there was nothing left for me in the world. But just when I was desperate, an old friend of mine found me. He's a retired policeman who works as a private detective. He told me that while investigating another case, he accidentally discovered some clues related to the Isabella family. He suspected that the family's criminal activities might be more serious than I thought. This news rekindled my spirit. I realized that I could not just give up and let Isabella and her family get away with it. It was my duty to bring their crimes to light and to bring justice to those they had victimized. I decided to work with an old friend to uncover the true nature of the Isabella family. We organized all the evidence we had and made a detailed plan of investigation. I knew it was going to be an uphill battle. We were dealing with a huge crime syndicate, and they weren't going to let us get away with it. But no matter what obstacles lay ahead, I was ready. Because it's not just about me, it's about justice and fairness. I'm going to make Isabella and her family pay, and I'm going to make sure the truth comes out. With the help of an old friend, I began a full-scale investigation of the Isabella family. We split up, gathering evidence from different angles. I was responsible for tracing their money flow, while my friend used his contacts in the police force to find out about their criminal activities. The investigation has been extremely difficult, and the Isabella family, seemingly anticipating our actions, has begun to use every means possible to obstruct us. They hired a team of specialized lawyers to try to delay the investigation by legal means. They also used their connections to spread rumors in the political and business circles to try to damage my reputation. There was even a time when our witness suddenly backtracked and refused to give crucial testimony. We later found out that he had been paid by the Isabella family and had received death threats. But we did not give up. We knew that the truth could cost us dearly, but it was the path we had to take. We redoubled our caution and adopted more stringent measures of secrecy. We shifted the focus of our investigation and began to look at the Isabella family's weaknesses. It's all in the mind. After months of hard work, we finally found a breakthrough. We discovered that the Isabella family's criminal activities were inextricably linked to a number of dignitaries and high-ranking officials. They used these connections to provide an umbrella for their illegal activities. Among them was one of Isabella's uncles, the deputy mayor of a city, who controlled the local economy. At great risk to ourselves, we've persuaded a man who knows what's going on behind the scenes. He was Isabella's uncle's private secretary and had a wealth of inside information. Under our protection, he agreed to testify publicly as a tainted witness against the Isabella family's shady dealings with the dignitaries. We carefully planned a press conference. We chose a city far away from the Isabella family's sphere of influence to ensure safety. At the press conference, we unveiled a wealth of evidence and documents exposing the Isabella family's years of criminal behavior. The tainted witness also testified about what he knew. The impact of the press conference was enormous. The Isabella family became an overnight fugitive. Their assets were frozen, key members were arrested, and Isabella's father and uncle were charged with corruption, money laundering, bribery, and many other charges. And Isabella, the woman I once loved, was not spared. Under police interrogation, she confessed to her role in the family's criminal activities. She admitted that her marriage to me had been a sham from the beginning and that she had used me as a cover for the family's criminal activities. As for her relationship with Sebastian, it was only a cover to make me completely disillusioned with her and abandon the family investigation. When I found out, I felt a chill down my spine. It turned out that I never really had Isabella's love in this marriage. All her warmth and sweet words to me were just elaborate lies, and I was just a pawn in this huge trick. being pushed around by them without any dignity. But at the same time, I feel a deep sense of relief. After such a long time of investigation and struggle, the truth has finally come out. Those who had hurt me and cheated me were finally punished. Though the cost was heavy, justice finally triumphed over evil. This also gave me a renewed hope for life. After the launch, I received many letters from the victims. They included business rivals of the Isabella family, investors who had been defrauded by them, and small business owners who had gone bankrupt under their oppression. In their letters, these people thanked me, saying that my investigation had brought them justice and given them the courage to start over. Looking at these letters, my heart was filled with emotion. I realized that this investigation was not only for myself, but also for all those who had been deceived and hurt. Their support and understanding made me feel that my efforts were worthwhile. Although the process is difficult, I know that this is the road I have to take, because only the truth can bring true reconciliation and rebirth. After the storm, I began to reflect on my life. I realized that in the past, I had put too much faith in appearances and indulged too much in illusory love. I had ignored many danger signs and lost myself. But after all this, I have become more mature and wise. I realize that we will inevitably encounter deception and hurt along the way of life. But as long as we stick to the truth and justice, we will be able to get out of the darkness and usher in a new dawn. This investigation changed my life. It allowed me to see the complexity of human nature and to find the direction of my life. Since then, I decided to write a book about my experience and tell this thrilling story to more people. I hope that my experience can give those who are experiencing difficulties some inspiration, so that they understand that no matter how difficult the road ahead, as long as you insist on hope, you will be able to find their own way out. After the truth about Isabella's family came out, my life gradually got back on track. As time passed, the painful memories began to fade and I regained the rhythm and joy of life. I got back into the movie business. After all the turmoil, I was more careful in choosing scripts. I started to look for stories that reflect social issues and inspire people. I hope that through my movies, I can convey positive energy and bring hope and strength to the audience. My new movie was a huge success at a film festival. The movie tells the story of an ordinary man who, in the face of injustice, through his own hard work and courage, finally overcomes the difficulties and changes his destiny. In a way, this story also reflects my own experience. At the awards ceremony, I gave a speech encouraging people to face life's challenges with courage and to stand up for their principles and beliefs. What I didn't expect was that the movie would also bring about a change in my personal life. At the party after the premiere, I met a woman. She was a journalist who had interviewed numerous celebrities. But in her eyes, I saw something special. It was a kind of understanding, appreciation, and support, a kind of sincere care that went beyond the superficial glamour. We became fast friends. During our conversation, I realized that she had a similar experience. She was once in an unhealthy relationship and almost lost herself. But in the end, she broke free through her own efforts and regained the meaning of her life. Her story made me feel a sense of sympathy, and there seemed to be a special understanding between us. As our relationship deepened, our feelings slowly began to heat up. Her appearance brought color back to my bleak life. She is understanding, intelligent, and humorous, always able to keenly detect my emotional changes and give me the most timely comfort and encouragement. In her company, I felt more relaxed and happy than ever. I began to believe that perhaps God had opened another window for me while closing a door for me. On a special day, I confessed my feelings for her. To my surprise, she felt the same way about me. At that moment, I felt that all my sufferings had a meaning, because without the previous tribulations, I would not be who I am today. And without who I am today, I would not have met such a special person. We started talking about marriage. This time, I was not as blind and impulsive as before. We spent a long time getting to know each other and discussing our hopes for marriage and life. I realized that we shared many of the same basic values. We both want to build a relationship based on mutual trust, respect, and support, a marriage that gives each other room to grow and pursue our dreams. Our wedding was simple, but full of happiness and warmth. We invited our closest family and friends to witness the crystallization of our love. When we exchanged rings, I looked into her eyes and made a sincere promise. I vowed to spend my life loving and cherishing her, and to be with her through thick and thin. This marriage has enabled me to rediscover the meaning of life. It has made me realize that true love is not possession and control, but understanding, tolerance, and support. In the days to come, we will encounter all kinds of difficulties and challenges, but I believe that as long as we are close to each other, heart to heart, there is no difficulty that we cannot overcome. Looking back, I finally realized that life is a journey of self-discovery and growth. In this journey, we will inevitably encounter confusion and frustration, will inevitably be hurt and cheated. But as long as we do not forget the beginning, adhere to the hope and faith, we will be able to get out of the haze, ushered in their own piece of blue sky. I hope that by sharing my story, I can give some insight to those who are going through difficult and confusing times. I hope that we can realize that life's hardships are lessons and opportunities. They teach us to grow and make us stronger. As long as we have the courage to face it and are good at summarizing, we will be able to create a better future. The road of life is still long, and my story is still going on. But I believe that as long as we embrace love and hope and adhere to justice and truth, we will be able to walk out of our own happy road. Let's embrace every moment of our lives and write our own beautiful chapters. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.